Hey guys! Today I am super pumped for our wedding planning powwow. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but they're like learning to ride a motorcycle in the parking lot outside, so I'm very sorry for any noise. But I am going to be having on Ashley, who is one of my past brides from 2017, and she owns her own business called Blush Oak, where she makes wedding decor, and she's amazing, and I'm really excited to have her on. So I'm going to add her in here. Yay! Hi, Ashley.
Okay, I have to set it up. I'm literally balancing on Kyle's like football helmet.
I love it.
Let me see.
Can you like hear this motorcycle stuff going on outside?
No.
Okay,
But
good.
you may hear my neighbor at some point too, because he's like crazy like that. He's like a 60-year-old man that has, I'm telling you, it's from like the 50s.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy. Well, at least it's both of us.
Yeah, so we may
for
both
real?
do that.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have you on here.
We're actually getting ready to leave for a wedding tomorrow morning. So.
Really? Where at?
South Carolina.
Nice. Oh my god. So is this the one where you're bridesmaid or maid of honor?
Maid of honor.
Nice. Awesome. Oh my gosh, so
Oh,
excited.
Steph's on.
Hi, Steph.
Funny.
I love it. Well, can you share just a little bit about who you are, what you do, that whole kind of thing?
So I'm Ashley, and I'm a past bride of Jen's, October 2017. So it's been a year and a half.
I can't even believe
which is crazy.
Insane.
So when I was planning my wedding, I decided I was going to DIY everything because, in my opinion, I think a lot of businesses overprice their stuff. So I was like, one day I just signed up for a calligraphy class in New Jersey and pretty much taught myself how to make everything. And then after I planned my wedding and I made everything, I was like, I need to continue to do this because I still think people are overpriced, and I wanted to make wedding decor affordable for everyone, because why should you have to pay so much to have beautiful decor at your wedding? I think everyone needs the opportunity. So that was kind of my mission, to continue to make stuff but stay affordable.
I love it.
And it keeps me busy, even though during the day I'm actually a project manager with construction, so it's completely different than when I come home and I get to like kind of decompress with a pen and some wood.
That's awesome. I love it. And I'm a proud owner of one of that you made for me, and it hangs
like
up
the
in my
original.
office. I love it so
Literally
much.
the original. I look back at some of my stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm glad that I've grown since it. But you have to start somewhere. Everyone does.
Totally. I feel like that's so much with photography too. Like from my first like few years in business, like you just like grow so much. Like looking back, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like I did that, and it's like it's crazy. But yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, can you share a little bit with me about your wedding? I mean, I was there, I was part of it, but just kind of like tell a little bit of like a backstory on your planning and all that kind of stuff.
So planning, I looked at about 10 to 15 venues in a matter of like 2 months, because I'm originally from Long Island, so I knew a lot of Long Island venues, but unfortunately no one had any insight on New Jersey venues. So we always had an idea of what we wanted. My husband Kyle grew up on 12 acres, horsed in his backyard. So we knew that we needed like some sort of nature, but also where we weren't like on a farm. And New Jersey, unfortunately, some places we looked, I was like, we cannot afford that. So we tried to be very honest with ourselves of what we could afford, because a wedding is one day. That's planning for the rest of your life. So you want to have a beautiful wedding, but you also don't want to put yourself into debt. So that was the big thing when we were planning. So when we came across Basking Ridge Country Club, it was actually our first venue we looked at. And I thought it was too good to be true because behind it was a farm, but it was still a golf course. So it was, and then we had the ballroom. So it was kind of like what we were looking for. But then, of course, I was like, I can't book the first place we look at. So then I looked at so many more. And every time I would go into another one, some of them were too modern for what we were looking for. And who knew that my husband actually wanted windows that overlooked greenery.
Yeah.
I had no idea when we first started. So then after I looked at so many over months, stressed about it, lost sleep about it, we went back to the first place we looked and we So yeah, I will say I think the most stressful part is finding the venue.
Yeah.
Because that's the largest chunk of money.
Yeah.
And it also sets the tone for your wedding. So I think that's what the pressure is. It's like this venue is literally going to be in every photo you take.
Mm-hmm.
You need a good backdrop.
Yeah.
But you also need to look for certain things. Like if it rains, you don't want just all outdoors. You need to.
It's true. Venue was really tough for me too. Just like because there's a lot of criteria that it needs to fit, and just like and then finding something within budget that like there's a lot that goes.
There's a lot. Definitely the most stressful part. I tell every one of my friends. It feels that this is like the year that everyone's getting married this summer. And the first piece of advice I said was enjoy being engaged. Wait a month or two. Just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And then start looking. And when you start to look, just like really be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And try not to lose sleep over it, even though I can't really say that because I lost a lot of sleep. Trying to find it. Because you think you fall in love with some place and then you start to add it up, because there's some venues where you have to do like the tent, you have to do everything.
Right. Yeah.
And those really add up. So like when you start to crunch the numbers, you realize this is not going to.
Yeah. And that was like something too, because like we did want to have our reception in a tent, but like a lot, like most of the venues that we were looking at is like you have to bring your own tent, you have to rent that, and then also all these other things aren't included. So it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how much it's actually going to cost us. It gets a little crazy.
It adds up.
Yeah.
You think a tent wedding would be so laid back and easy until you put the logistics in and you're like, no, I have to get the tables, the chairs, the linens. You have to do it all.
Yeah.
So the tent weddings look effortless, but there's a lot of planning that go into them. And I personally just didn't have it in me to be able to plan a wedding like that, even though they're gorgeous.
Yeah. I'm with you, because like that was my initial idea, was like, oh, like we could just get like a plot of land somewhere.
Literally, I was like,
we could
on Kyle's like land that he lived, like you grew up on. They grew up with in the backyard. It's beautiful, but it probably would have still cost more than going to a place.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, I was like, okay, well, at that rate, if we're going to be spending that much money, like I'd rather have less work on my end on like putting that all together, and like all the other benefits that come with like actually using a place than putting all of that work into like make it a place.
And I think also when you're looking at venues, like who you're going to work with, because you work with them a lot. So I will say we almost booked with a venue until I realized that the person who I would be coordinating with just wasn't on the same page as me. And I realized if they're not on the same page with me, it's going to be very difficult to communicate. So my biggest thing was, I think professionals should respond to emails within 48 hours. So if I'm not getting an email back from a venue within a week, then when it's 2 weeks before my wedding and I can't get in contact with them, that's going to be an issue. So I think make sure who you're working with any of your vendors. You have good communication and they're on the same page as you. That's like a huge thing.
Yeah. And that's something too that I like hadn't really thought too much about until I started inquiring with places, and I'm like, okay, it's been like 2 weeks, like emailing me back now. I'm like, oh no, I can't.
If you're not a priority now, then how are you going to be a priority when your wedding is almost coming?
Yeah.
I don't know. But that maybe that's just me, personality. I like a quick response.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I'm sure a lot of the things where that, like, for me are a priority, or for you are a priority, maybe other people don't prioritize, which is totally fine. But like, making sure the things that you do prioritize are like taken care of is super important.
Yeah. Kyle joined.
Hi, Kyle. Yeah.
I told him no. I was like, no.
I love it. Oh man. Awesome. So what would you say was your favorite part of planning your wedding?
Favorite part? No. Probably when everything started to come together. Because there's a lot of pieces. So until you start to book things and see like it all fall into place, that was like, I don't think one vendor made me like the most excited, but I think seeing like a month before what we started at, which was like clippings of magazines, like taped onto a sheet of paper that I brought to every meeting. And I was like, this is what I'm looking for. So I think month before, when you realize like you started so far like behind, and now here you are, you have like all these great vendors that now you get to work with for your wedding. I think that was my most exciting. And also I think the wedding, because there's a lot leading up to it.
Yeah. I feel like already, like, I feel like it's so far away that it still kind of like feels abstract. It's like, this is really exciting and cool, but like, I can't like visualize like how everything's
going. Yeah, because you don't have your final meetings until like 6 weeks before.
Yeah. So
it's like go the first 2 to 3 months. And you kind of sit around for a little and you're like, am I really planning a wedding?
Right.
And then about 2 months before, it picks up again.
Yeah.
And then when that wedding day comes, you're really excited because you're like, you've emailed and called timelines, like you've done it all. So now you just want to see it like come together.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I feel like that'll be really cool to like finally be here. And I feel like too, since like Ryan and I have been dating so long, I feel like I've been waiting for this for like.
And you've seen a million weddings.
Yeah.
That would probably be, I don't know if I could have done that because I would have so much more like in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen weddings.
That is the hard part.
And I think that's harder for you because you have a lot of ideas from others.
Yeah.
So then you have to kind of balance it all.
I feel like
had 0 plans because I was the first of our friends. I had only been like my brothers and my cousins.
Yeah.
It was kind of the first. So but it was also pressure because it was like, I'm setting like the standard for like what our friends will do.
Yeah.
It's
kind of, it's on one hand, I'm like, it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, on one hand, I'm like, I've worked with so many vendors that it's like, okay, I know my people who I need. So that takes like one huge like load off. Like there's a lot less research on that kind of thing. But on the other hand, it's like I've been to so many weddings and it's like there's a lot of things that I like, and it's like, okay, how do I like make this our own and kind of like narrow things down, and all of that I feel like is extra challenging.
Yeah. And I always say Pinterest is great, but it can be your biggest curse. Because there's so many ideas on it, but you also don't want it to look like Pinterest like threw up at your wedding, which is the only way you can say it. Because if you put too many ideas, it can be overwhelming. So it's definitely like finding the balance. And you can totally mix 2 kinds of styles. Because like I really wanted the rustic, but then we also wanted the classic. So if I ever described our wedding, like looking back, I would say it was like rustic glam. Because like I had the woodsy elements, but then we also had like the rose gold that pulled through. So you don't have to stick to one style when you're looking at your wedding decor. You can kind of like balance everything.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And that's nice too. Like when you're not like, okay, it has to be like this one specific thing. Like and I think by combining styles and things like that, this is how you can like make it your own rather than just like, oh, Pinterest regurgitated in real life and here it is.
I agree.
Yeah. And I would say too, like for you, like making decor and stuff, do you like have any advice on like how to kind of like go about choosing decor pieces and like where like should you start with like bigger pieces and then kind of work in smaller stuff, or like how do you go about that? That's part is like super overwhelming to me because I don't know anything.
I think I made a vision board, like literally like a month into being engaged before we did anything. I I personally was not someone who had a Pinterest board previously. Like I know there's people who they're not even dating and they have a better wedding Pinterest board than I do after being married. So I personally did not have one of those.
Yeah.
So when I got engaged and I was like, before we look at anything, I need to just make a vision board. So I literally bought magazines and clipped things out and taped it onto paper. I don't even know if I ever showed you this, but I still have it, I think. But it's just like what our wedding cake we wanted to look like. And just every piece, your flowers, your wedding dress. Because I don't think your wedding decor is the only thing that goes into like the overall tone of your wedding. I think that ties it together. But the smallest pieces as like your wedding cake also needs to be tied in.
Yeah.
So really, I think just making a vision board that's not just decor.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm telling you, finding your venue sets the biggest tone of your wedding. Because once you, and then I also think your wedding dress has to tie in.
Yeah.
So I think like the decor part was probably the last piece that I thought of, but I always had like an idea of what I wanted.
Yeah.
But it wasn't it was probably the last thing I thought about.
And I think that makes sense to a degree too, because it's like I feel like you kind of need all these other things to kind of like come together, and I feel like that's partially what I'm struggling with, is because I like want to like start thinking about all the things, but I'm like at step one where it's like, okay, I don't have a dress and all. So I'm like, I have a venue, but like beyond that, I'm like, I really like don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think once those other pieces come into play.
Yeah.
How far out did you get your wedding dress?
My wedding dress. So we got engaged in June. We got married the following October. So we planned the wedding in 15 months, I think, about that. We booked the venue about exactly a year before. At about 10 months before is when I put my first wedding dress on. And the biggest piece of advice that I would give anyone that was given to me from the wedding dress place I went to first was try on every style. I knew I didn't want a ball gown, but I'm glad I tried it on, because you're never going to try these dresses on again. So take advantage that like they will put you in anything you want. So my first time I went with my mother-in-law, because she has 2 boys, so I wanted to make sure she was involved as much as she could, because she doesn't have a daughter. So I actually went with her first, and I tried on about 10 different styles. I knew I wasn't going to find my dress that day, but at least I walked out of there knowing for sure that a ball was not mine, like my thing. So then when I went back again, I went to Kleinfeld's. I actually went to their sample sale, and I got a sample dress.
Nice.
So because I got a sample dress, I walked out with it that day. So then it sat in my closet for 9 months, which is kind of like, I think I actually brought it to my parents so that they had it.
Yeah.
So I didn't keep looking at it.
Yeah.
Or like Kyle couldn't open it. But I would say about 10 months before. But because you're so far out, like maybe you just go and just try on like every style.
Yeah.
I went to, I do in Morristown. And then I went to Kleinfeld's for the sample sale.
Nice.
All about a sale. Because there's not a lot of sales in weddings. And that's one of it.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I feel like too, I did like a little mini, just like trying on random stuff at like David's Bridal when my sister came out from California. I'm like, I feel like I just need to like rip the Band-Aid off and just try something on, and like I'm like, let me just put on a few things and like see. So it definitely was helpful in like narrowing things down. So I'm like, okay, I definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
So that's helpful because I, again, like same as you, like I knew I wasn't like finding a dress that day. I was like, I just want to go and like try some things on, see different shapes, and like kind of get a better idea because like I don't really have that much in mind of like what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So like I felt like that was helpful to be like, okay, no, I do definitely like this kind of dress, or I like this like sleeve thing, I like this, but you know, I don't like any of these things. So it was definitely super helpful.
Yeah, I'm like other than being at work where I have to dress business casual, once I get home, I literally put leggings on and like a sweatshirt. So
yeah.
one thing I knew was that I needed comfort.
Yeah.
And I needed to be able to move freely, like without any restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of the dresses I would put on and I'm like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But like when I go to sit down, like, and I wanted to eat at my wedding. That was amazing. I wanted to be able to eat. So comfort was like the number one thing. And everyone tells you when you find your dress, you'll know you found your dress. I was like, they're crazy.
Yeah.
But you do.
Okay.
You know when you find your dress. Because I tried on a lot that day at Kleinfeld's.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to one of the first dresses I put on, and that was the one I got. So
yeah.
it was very comfortable.
It's funny because it's like, for me, like obviously haven't had that experience yet because I haven't got a dress, but like I always like have my like hesitant. I'm like, will I really know?
You
and,
will,
like,
because I'm like that too. You definitely, and it's the same thing as a venue. Like everyone tells you everything you look for, you will know when. And same thing, like finding a photographer, you know when you click with someone.
Yeah.
So you just get like a certain feeling, or maybe you that day you try something on and you're like, oh, I really like that, but you decide maybe let's try more. But what if you wake up 2 days later and you're still thinking about it? Go back, because most likely that is your dress. You had just too much on your mind. And wedding dress shopping is very like emotional.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it, because every time I would come home, I was very exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would be like, yeah, because you don't realize how emotional it is.
That's true.
So sometimes you do have to just not pull the trigger right away.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it again, it's just like a bag in a store.
Right.
Like you don't buy it that day, but you go back 2 days later and you still buy it.
Yeah.
So definitely like trust your gut, because it will.
Yeah. And that's how we felt like for our venue. And that was like another thing where I was like, I don't know, like but I was like, no, this is right. This is right.
Yeah.
For sure. So like, I'm hoping it's not going to be like, I feel intimidated after. I mean, I know I just went to David's Bride. I was like one place, but I was like, this is going to be harder than I thought it was, because I feel like nothing is what I wanted. But it was interesting too, a good exercise of like trying to articulate like what don't I like, because like the attendant woman was like, oh, what don't you like about it? I'm like, all of it. I don't know. That's not helpful.
I also think you need a good helper at the wedding store place, because they're part of the experience too. Because if they're not understanding what you say you don't like, then you're just not seeing eye to eye that day. So maybe go back to that place, but book with someone else, because it might not be what they don't have in stock.
Right.
It's not being pulled, because they have thousands of dresses back there, and they're only picking like 7 or 8 of them for you to try.
Right.
So
crazy. So
I would find like designers that you liked.
Yeah.
And then bring, like, they don't have to find that specific dress for you, unless you were like, I have friends who they went in with a dress and they bought that dress. But brought like pictures of dresses I liked, and then they would pull dresses similar to it.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's a good way.
Yeah. That's what I did, because I have a hard time expressing fashion, like fashion wise, hard time expressing in words what I want with fashion.
Yeah.
I'm not like, it's not my forte. Right. So I think having pictures helped a lot. And then I could point to what I liked about it. Yeah. And every dress, like if you try on a strapless dress, it can be made with straps. So don't say no to a strapless because they can easily add sleeves to a strapless.
Right.
So like, and sometimes on the hook, you're like, oh, that's not me. And then you put it on and it looks completely different. So just try anything on and have fun with it.
Did you do any alterations to your dress?
So surprisingly, not really. So because it was a sample, some of the beading was a little loose, but it was actually in really good shape. And I really didn't need any alterations to my dress.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know how, but I think we just took off some length and just made sure it fit really well, and I didn't like play with it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really lucked out.
That's awesome.
So, I don't have advice with that, but I have friends who have bought like a sweetheart strapless, and they've made it with, and they've added sleeves, and it looks, you can't even tell that they made those alterations.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That like opens up the whole thing even more. Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's a dress that you're like, oh, I kind of like this, you can always ask. They always have a tailor or seamstress, usually downstairs. And you can say, you know, I really like this, but I'm thinking maybe we could do this, or add a belt. Adding a belt makes a world's difference on some dresses. So show them what you think you want to do, and they can bring their seamstress up and they can pin and tuck it for you, and then you can visualize what those changes could be.
That's
at
good.
the end of the day, they're salespeople and they want to sell a dress.
Yeah.
So you just have to know what you're looking for and ask for it. Because there's always a seamstress there.
Good advice. Because yeah, I feel like that would be the hard part for me, is like trying to visualize like what would it look like if I like put a sleeve or whatever on. Like, I don't know.
And they can usually do that for you in the store.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I would just ask.
Thanks. That's good. That's good tips. I think I'm gonna probably do like my next round of like shopping this summer, and just, but I wanted to
go during this season that you're getting married. That was like a thing I did a lot for. Like I went to my florist exactly a year before. I went to my venue actually the day of my wedding a year before to find out when the sun set.
Yeah.
Remember, I was like,
I love it. Yes.
And I wanted to see like what the foliage looked like. So I did a lot of stuff like exactly a year before, because that's what's going to be around when you go to get married the next year.
That's so true. Yeah.
What
do you think was the hardest part of planning a wedding?
I think we talked about it already, was the venue. Venue and balancing it all.
Yeah.
Definitely. And also I think the guest list is tough, because you have to I think a lot of thought went into my guest list.
Yeah.
Because we personally didn't want a huge wedding, but you also want to invite the right people. It can go from 100 people to 200. Because if like we luckily both went to college together. That's where we met. So we had the same college friends, which helps.
Yeah.
But if you invite, like, you can invite 2 friends and that can turn into 20 friends.
Right.
So I think your guest list, there's a lot of thought that goes into that.
That's like for sure a little bit of an overwhelming part. We like did our initial thing before we started like looking at venues just to make sure of how many people, but like we haven't revisited. So I'm like, I mean, we have our general range, but it's like, like, it's just a lot. Like trying to outline all the people that you want to be there, and like make sure you're not forgetting people. And then with certain people, it's like, oh, if I invite this person, then I have to invite these people. And like,
so that's definitely a tougher part too. And what you did was what I tell people to do is to make your guest list before you walk into a venue. Because a lot of venues only fit, like, say, 150, but you may have 200. So you don't want to fall in love with the venue that you can't fit into.
Right. Or
So
like with the minimums and things where it's like, oh
yeah,
this
they
it's like
have minimums on Saturdays. We had to personally get married on Friday because we couldn't meet the minimum for the room on Saturday.
Wow. Yeah.
So definitely have a range of what it will be. And then I always say about 80% of people that you invite will come. So we invited about 200. We had about 160. Nice. So right at 80%. And that's what a lot of the coordinators tell you.
Yeah. 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 Good. Yeah. I'm hoping like our list is probably at like 150-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hopefully we'll get to like 130 around.
That's a nice number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we want to be able to enjoy all of our guests and not where like we just invited them to invite them.
Yeah.
We also were honest with our friends and we didn't give everyone a guest, which I know is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But we were just honest with people. Yeah. And I think if anyone's ever planned a wedding, they understand how expensive a wedding is. So our whole thing was if you're dating someone, especially younger people, if you're dating someone, more than welcome to bring them. But we weren't opening up the table for every single one of our friends to bring a guest.
Yeah.
And I think people should respect, if you're inviting them to your wedding, they obviously mean something to you. So I think everyone should respect that decision. Mm-hmm. We personally had no one come back and say, what? I can't bring someone? So,
yeah.
But guest list has a lot.
That's a beast.
Yeah.
If you could go back, what would be like one thing that you would change or do differently now?
Honestly, I don't think I would change anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't think I would change anything. Probably tell myself not to stress as much as I did.
Yeah.
Because I stressed a lot in the beginning for things that I shouldn't have. I stressed when we ran out of hotel rooms in our block because every single person was pretty much traveling for our wedding. Mm-hmm. And we ran out of rooms at our first hotel. And I literally panicked. And I lost like a week's worth of sleep. Yet we ended up finding more. Like there were more hotels. Like
right.
Probably not stressed as much as I did.
Yeah.
Because and it's really easy to say now. And my mom was telling me, everyone was telling me not to stress about it, but you still do.
Yeah. In the moment, I feel like it's harder to like I like, even so, like being super early stages, there's been like a few instances already where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, this is not good, like freak out. And then it's like, okay, like it's fine. It's actually fine. So.
I look back at it and I'm like, what was I like stressed about?
Yeah.
But that's all part of planning a wedding. Is looking back and being like, it all worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
It all works out, even if I think part of planning a wedding is just having those stressful moments, though, because it makes it that much better when it does work out. And I prefer to hit a glitch before the wedding than on the wedding day.
Also very true.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll take all the trouble now.
Yeah.
How much would you say was Kyle involved in planning? Were there like certain things that he was?
I gave him tasks.
Yeah.
He was involved. So I gave him the task of DJ. Because I figured that wasn't something. So in the beginning, we said, what are our, like, what's most important to us? And our most important was good food, alcohol, and good music. But I knew that, like, me finding a DJ was not my thing. Like, I wasn't as interested in finding a good DJ as he was. Yeah. So I kind of left that to him. And he was in charge of booking appointments with the DJ. I still went with him. But he was the one to book the appointments, which is one less appointment for me to book.
Yeah.
And then the food tasting, of course. That's kind of what he was involved in. I'm not going to lie. But
Well,
I didn't mind taking on the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And like, I know people would say, oh, I can't believe he didn't come to the florist appointments with you. But I actually feel like it was easier.
Yeah.
Because I was by myself, because if he was sitting next to me, he would be nudging me to be like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. Right.
So there were definitely things that I took on by myself, and I was completely okay with that. But I think every couple is different.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like for me, you know, like being in the wedding industry, like Ryan trusts my judgment on like a lot of these things. But like, yeah, like I feel like for flowers, like that's not something that like he's really excited about or things like that, where it's like, okay, it's probably better for me to just like, because I am excited about it. So it's like, maybe like, I think that's better. It's not like, yeah, kind of like finding those things that are important to both of you guys to do together, or like for him, like, you know, whatever is like most important. Like I know Ryan's like really excited about like trying to have like some kind of unique like vendor in terms of like food or something like that for cocktail hour. Like that's a big thing. So I don't know, I have no idea. So I'm like, cool, so that could be something that he can kind of spearhead, because that's what he's excited about.
I think that's what's important, is that they have excitement on what they're doing, because maybe some guys, but not my husband, could care less about the invitations.
Right.
So yes, I ran everything by him. He always knew when I was spending on something, but he necessarily wasn't like choosing the colors of our invitations or choosing exactly what flower went into my bouquet.
Right.
But he knew what he was walking into. I think keeping, like, don't keep secrets. They may not be interested, but they still want to know what you're paying for something, or what they're wearing as their boutonniere.
Yeah.
You can probably hear cars behind me now. Yeah. So even if they're not interested, still run everything by them.
Yeah, that's good. Can you share a little bit more about Blush Oak and like how you got started with it and like what you do, your process, kind of all that good stuff?
So how it got started, when I met you for coffee and I said, I have this idea. I know I made all my wedding decor. Where do I start? That was literally where it started, was when I met you for coffee. Aww. About I think it was like 2 or 3 months after our wedding. When I had let all the dust settle, like I needed to step back a little bit from it all. And then so that was probably like December, where I decided I'm going to do something with this. And then in March, I actually reached out to a local wedding store on Long Island called Wedding Warehouse, and they had just opened. So I just sent them an email and said, here's what I do. If you're interested, I would love to meet with you. So that's kind of where it all started. I'm on Etsy, but I believe it's an oversaturated market right now. So I don't put all my energy into Etsy at all. I actually prefer to meet someone and like have a very casual conversation on what they're looking for, and designing for that bride, not just designing pieces for someone to buy off a store.
Yeah.
So at the Wedding Warehouse, I do custom table numbers. I do stuff to sell there, but I do enjoy doing custom also. And probably my favorite is helping my friends right now, because like tomorrow this weekend when I go to the wedding, I designed all of her signage. So I'm really excited to see it all come together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that'll be so fun, because I feel like that's pretty unique, where it's like, you know, you don't normally get to like see it all like on the wedding day.
I know. I usually get like photos. I'm like, can you send me your photos so I have like can see what it looked like? Because I know what it looks like when I set it up like in my living room.
Right.
But when there's flowers, or it's like
Yeah.
in the entrance of your ceremony, it looks so different. So like that's like probably my favorite part is when I see it like at the wedding.
Yeah. Oh
But yeah, definitely my favorite part is like just talking to brides and seeing what they're looking for and then working with them. Because I think the best part about using someone to make your wedding decor is that it all matches. Yeah. Because you can buy pieces here and there and you hope that it all matches, like it all comes together. But if I work with someone, I can stain it all the same color, or we can use acrylic or chalkboard, and I'll make sure, even though it's all scattered through the space, it's all going to, when you look at it all together, it matches. I think that's huge.
Yes.
You don't want it to look like you just bought it here and there.
Exactly. Because I feel like that's like probably kind of easy to, even just like knowing myself, like, because like you get excited or you see like something and it's like, oh, that's cool, like maybe I'll get that, and then like trying to make things fit around it, or like, you know, working backwards that way, or then like you end up with stuff that just like doesn't quite go.
I did it. I bought so much stuff and did not use it because I thought I wanted it, and then I laid it all out and I was like, this doesn't go. So like I think planning my own wedding decor made me realize how important it was to have an overall theme throughout all of it. So I think working with someone really helps that, because you can talk through it and then decide, because I don't think you need to do all wood signs, but you can do acrylic and wood, but it needs to have an overall theme throughout.
So true. That's a really good one. Yeah. I love it. So what is like the most common type of decor you make, and what is like the most unique or your favorite thing that you've made so far?
So most common, it's changing, because I think the overall design of weddings, like the trends are changing from when I started. When I started, it was all very, very rustic. And it's kind of starting to change into like modern, I'm finding. So when I started, I did all wood signs, but now I'm really starting to test out like acrylic, and I'm actually going to be testing out when I get back acrylic with like gold foil behind it.
Ooh.
Really? I got the supplies.
That sounds...
I'm going to be testing that soon. Because I think the trends change and you have to change with them. You can't just, like, yeah, my name is Blush Oak, and that all started with blush was one of the colors of my wedding, and then oak for the wood. But you have to change with the trends. Yeah. My favorite thing to do, I actually love making table numbers, because I think you can get way more creative with them than you realize you can.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite thing. And I like making oversized signs. Because they're fun. Like, they're just so large scale. Again, you can do a lot with them.
Yeah.
And they probably have the biggest impact at your wedding, because like a welcome sign, oversized welcome sign, that's the first thing your guests see. So it can have a huge impact really early on.
Yeah.
I like that.
Fun. I love it. I feel like
I've done what did I do? Wood slices, mini wood slices, like I did someone's seating chart with those, and that was really fun. And when I saw the photos of it, I like fell in love. I was like, oh, I didn't think of that for mine. So,
how did they like set that up?
So they actually just set up, like laid it out on tables. That's so cool. Yeah. What a fun idea. And I like something that's like useful in two ways. So it's a seating table, but then everyone could bring it home, and it was a coaster. So everyone gets to bring home like a little piece of your wedding. That's really cute. It's a favor without realizing that you're doing a favor.
Yeah. Which is really nice, because I
feel
purpose. Like, yeah, I love that, because then it's not like at the end of the day then you have like 100 coasters of but everybody else gets to take one home. That's really cool.
We did the coasters at ours too. I stamped 200 coasters. That was the only thing. Like, I DIY'd a lot. Yeah. But the last week it was like a little stressful.
And so for I loved your pumpkins for your seating chart. You sprayed them yourself.
I did. So I bought 160 pumpkins from Trader Joe's. This is so bad because I went to farms and they wanted like $1.50 per pumpkin. I was like, no. Trader Joe's had them for cheaper, so I literally bought like every mini pumpkin from Trader Joe's. And I spray painted them when we lived in an apartment in the like common area of our apartment grass. And I spray painted 160 mini pumpkins. But it was so worth it because I look back and it's like unique.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's very us too.
Yeah.
I think there can always be like one statement piece of your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think seating charts is a very easy way to make that statement.
Yeah. I feel like it's really open.
See it. Yeah, everyone's seeing it because everyone needs to know where they're sitting. Because you can spend a lot of money on wedding decor that completely gets lost in the overall design of your wedding because the venue's huge. So you may have all these signs, people may never see them. I have people who looked at my wedding photo and said, wow, I didn't even realize you had some of that stuff at your wedding. But seating charts, everyone's going to walk up to that table, so why not use that as your statement?
I love that.
Because everyone's fun.
Yeah, because it's true. There's like so much going on and like so many like people might never like make it over to a certain corner of the room that has stuff but like you said, seating chart, like everybody's gonna go look at that. So
I have one that we're actually doing for an upcoming wedding. I'm not going to say what it is because we're still working through it, but you'll see it. And I'm very excited. We're going to test it out soon. And everyone will see it in July when it goes live.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. That's so exciting.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
I feel like that must be so fun getting like the inside look on like the super creative stuff like for the wedding. Like, oh, that's so fun.
I get to like have the excitement for someone else's wedding.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so nice because like I get just excited because I was once that bride that like had all these ideas, but you're like, I don't know how to pull this off. So like I get to do that for someone else's wedding, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
I never thought I would get the opportunity to do it. So now that I do, I really enjoy it.
It's so fun. I love that. That's awesome. Do you have any like what's your number one like piece of advice for brides who are planning their weddings now?
Enjoy your engagement. You only do it once. Or in my opinion, do it once and do it right. So I think my biggest thing was when I got engaged that we didn't like the next weekend go look at a venue. I think it was really like just enjoy it with your friends and your family as much as they're pushing you like, oh, what's your wedding date? Because that's the first question you get. You have a ring on your finger. What's your date now? As if everyone's planned this wedding before the ring.
Right.
Some people do. I'm telling you, I went to a venue and the guy's like, we already booked this date. The girl's not even like engaged. Because people have these dates that they want. So they
know. And things book out so fast. People like,
it's crazy. So my biggest thing was to enjoy your engagement, not run off and plan your wedding right away. Because it's the rest of your life. So why do you need to plan it so fast? So I think that was like when you get engaged to enjoy that. Other than that, I think the not stressing too much and being very realistic with yourself before you look at anything. Know what your budget is and be honest with your vendors what your budget is.
Yeah. Because
you'd be surprised that they will work with you if they'll work with your budget if they want to work with you.
Yeah.
When you go to look at a wedding dress, tell them what your budget is. You don't want to put on a dress that is double your price range you want to spend because what if you fall in love with that? You won't be able to put another wedding dress on.
Yeah.
And then you almost did it to yourself because you weren't honest. So I think just being honest with yourself in the beginning and with your significant other, because when you get married, you're in it together. Like your finances become one. So you're not just spending your own money, but you're spending their money too.
Yeah.
So I think just make sure they're involved in everything.
Yeah.
You want to start on a good foot when you get married.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
That's all.
Well,
I feel like I've been at it for so long now.
Really?
Yeah. It feels like ages ago.
It feels, kind of. And it feels like a minute ago at the same time. I'm like, I can't believe, I was like, that was last year, right? And I'm like,
no, when I have to write my wedding date, I'm like 2017. It doesn't feel like it was 2017, but then again, wedding planning feels like it was a long time ago. Because I think I found you almost 3 years ago.
That's crazy.
Because I think your photographer was like the first thing we booked after venue. So yeah, it was almost 3 years ago. That's
so nuts. Yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies, and I see it from the perspective of as a vendor, just with all the couples I'm working with, I'm like, oh my gosh, your wedding day's already here. Oh my gosh, your wedding day was a year ago. How did that happen? And I'm sure that will, feel the same for our own wedding, but it's just in this moment, it just feels like we have our little countdown going. It's 480 days. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's
But then it will get to 100 days and you're going to be like, how did it get here?
Yeah.
Because it does go fast.
Yeah.
Because when I first booked hours, I was like, how do I wait this long?
Yeah.
But then it does creep up on you.
Yeah.
Especially because you'll start to you'll kind of stop thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
As much as you think you won't. Once you have it booked and you have your wedding dress.
Yeah.
You will kind of stop thinking about it for a little bit. So then when it comes back, then it gets a little busy. So then really time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited for you. I like watching other people plan weddings now.
Yeah.
But I still get stressed out for some, my friends. I'm like, I'm stressed for you. You gotta get this done. Because you don't realize how things book. You really don't. If I were to say the top 3 things to book the fastest is your venue, your photographer, and your DJ. Because the good ones go a year to a year and a half out.
Yeah. And being in my own personal schedule, I'm booking things through the end of 2020 already. Yeah. So I know that, which on one hand makes me a little panicky. So it's when we first got engaged, I'm like, okay, we need to lock in the must-haves ASAP, because before you know it, it's oh, people are already booking out. I'm I'm already booking out, so gotta make sure. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, because some people are really on top of it, and I wasn't one of them. Now I try to give everyone my piece of advice as I work because I wasn't fasting.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah, it's fun.
This was awesome. I'm so excited about your secret projects and that I can see in July. And I just really love doing this with you, and I'll probably be in touch with you about my wedding decor when that comes around.
Right now, Kyle, he wanted me to give him a shout out. He is my stainer right now.
Nice.
Because I cannot stain right now. But he is now my stainer for the next 5 months, and then I'll be back at it.
Aww.
So I taught him how to do it, and now I do QA QC on his work. Yeah.
I love it.
But I'll be back for yours.
Yay.
I have a little buddy next to me.
I'm so excited. I'm really happy for you guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for yours, and we have to meet up for coffee now.
Yes, definitely.
Make a vision board telling you, even if it's like a chandelier, like it does, and a color scheme. Because that was the thing I did too. I like chose like 6 colors.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't mean that color needs to be at your wedding, but there's a reason you love that color for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Thanks, Ashley.
And now I need to go pack because we leave at 3:30.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, have a great time at the wedding.
Thank you.
I hopefully you'll post some like sneak peeks of your work around the wedding.
I will.
I can't wait to see. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.